This podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Legend of the Bones. Following in the footsteps of giants, Legend of the Bones is a chimera. A mix of old-school tabletop RPG and dark fantasy storytelling. As its name might suggest, in Legend of the Bones the dice rule. There'll be no rerolls, no fudging the dice, no metacurrency. The roll of the bones will determine the character's destiny, and no one will be spared their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone. Last time on Legend of the Bones. In the aftermath of their battle with Adric and the Brethren of the Purifying Light, several of the companions were badly wounded. The party remained at Angarak for several days, in order to heal and recover, and during this time, Valen and Lena finally consummated their feelings for each other. With the tower's mistress, the mage Demelza, and the Eye of Krevik both missing, a search of Angarak led Valen to find a magic ring, which grants its wearer the effects of protection from cold. This he gave to Lena, and he also found a letter from his dead master, Amos, to Demelza. In the letter, dated several months earlier, Amos advised Demelza that Angarak was no longer safe, and urged her to find a more remote home. When sharing the letter with his companions, Valen also produced a map he had found, on which someone had marked a location near the Dragonspine Mountains called Penmelkine, and the mage surmised that this was where Demelza had taken the Hellstone. Arn expressed concern that a journey inland would mean abandoning the Uvadraka, but in studying the map, Canute determined that the ship may be able to navigate a river running from the foot of the mountains to Malian. And so, the companions were resolved to make for Penmelkine, in the hope that they may yet prevent Reynard of Harburg from obtaining all of the Hellstones. Chapter 44, Part 1. 4 days ago. The heavy wooden door of the chamber creaked as it swung open, and the cleric stepped inside. Dim light filtered through the single narrow window, which was augmented by flickering light emanating from a floor-standing candelabra in the corner. The air was thick with the smell of burning incense, a familiar scent that never failed to soothe his nerves. The chamber was sparsely furnished, save for a wooden desk and a tall cabinet against the right wall. He threw his bag and travelling cloak over the chair, and moved towards the window to look out upon the temple's gardens. The sky was laden with heavy grey clouds moving swiftly in from the west, and the wind was picking up, causing the trees and shrubs to sway vigorously. His mind was already calculating his next steps. He had spent several years cultivating his influence, spreading insidious rumours, and planting seeds of discord throughout the kingdom. Now, like the trees in the temple's orchards, his efforts were beginning to bear fruit. His heart swelled with dark gratification. His network of agents, and his blackmail of the king's closest advisor, meant that he influenced the narrative at courts across the land. Even the king's son, Tristan, had fallen under the sway of the Brethren, his youthful idealism twisted into fanatical devotion. Now, only Lords Conwyn and Petrock remained loyal to the king, and their forces would be too few to hold back the tide of rebellion. A slow smile spread across his face.
"At last,"
he murmured.
"the time has come for our purification to sweep across the land."
Across the room, the candle flames flickered precariously, as a particularly strong gust swept into the room, and the first spots of rain fell upon the windowsill. He reached out and pulled the shutters close, just as the rain began to fall like ropes. He approached the cabinet, and from within retrieved a small iron-bound chest. Placing it on the desk, he opened it to reveal 3 jewels, each the size of a chestnut: a diamond, an emerald, and a black opal, each pulsing with dark energy. He ran his fingers over them, feeling their cursed power thrumming beneath his touch. Soon, he thought, the remaining healthstones would be his. Then there was a knock at the door.
"Come,"
he instructed, closing the lid of the chest and looking up to face whomever was about to enter. A middle-aged man came in, his purple robes rustling. High Seer Waormund, his face pale and drawn, his eyes betraying his turmoil within. The cleric had ensnared him months ago, discovering the High Seer's secret trysts and using them as leverage to turn him into a puppet. The High Seer's power and proximity to the king had been crucial in spreading the lies that now threatened to tear the kingdom apart.
"I see a Waormund.
Reynard greeted with a cold smile.
To what do I owe this pleasure?"
Waormund bristled at his blackmailer's insincerity.
Reynard.
The High Seer could hardly speak his tormentor's name. He felt sick at being in the cleric's presence, but he felt compelled to try and end this insanity.
You must stop this madness. Lord Paine has declared openly against the king, and as we speak, the southern thanes are flocking to his banner.
"Yes,"
Reynard interrupted, his eyes blazing with feverish fervour.
"you have done well."
Waormund looked away, unable to meet Reynard's gaze.
This was not what I intended, Reynard. The kingdom is on the brink of civil war. Innocent lives will be lost.
Reynard's smile faded, replaced by a look of steely determination. His plan had been intricate, its success contingent on the greed, fear, and ambition of morally weak men. Reynard had whispered in the ears of the southern thanes, promising them power and riches if they turned against the king. Chief among them was Lord Paine, a man of ruthless ambition, who had eagerly embraced Reynard's vision of a new order, one where he wore the crown. Paine was a fool, though. He would be no less of a puppet than Waormund, and in time, Reynard would seize direct power for himself.
"Sacrifices must be made for the greater good, I see. Paine will ascend to the throne, and with the Brethren's guidance, we will usher in a new era of purity and righteousness."
The High Seer shuddered, remembering the many lies Reynard had whispered into his ear, lies he himself had spread under duress. Rumours of the king's tyranny, allegations of demonic influences in the royal court, and whispers that Prince Tristan was illegitimate, had all served to fracture the once united kingdom. Waormund's face twisted with anguish.
And what of Lords Conwen and Petrock? They are loyal to the king. They will fight to the death.
"Says they will die, martyrs to a lost cause."
Reynard spat.
"The weak will fall, and the righteous will rise. This kingdom will be cleansed in fire, and from the ashes a new order will emerge."
Waormund shrank back, trembling at the thought. But then, somewhere from the depths of his soul, found a small flame of long-forgotten courage.
We shall see, Reynard,
he retorted defiantly.
For he who plays with fire will end burnt by it.
Reynard watched as Waormund left, the High Seer's final words sowing the tiniest seed of doubt. His thoughts turned once more to the Hellstones, and any wavering was pushed aside. Adric would soon recover the Eye of Krevik, and with mutiny in the south, he would instruct Maelor to seek the Eye of Slethra on Innis Nath With the 5 jewels reunited, nothing would stand in his way. Yet, he opened the chest once again, and took the diamond in his hand. It pulsed more weakly than the other 2. That old fool, Amos ap Howard, had done something to weaken the Eye of Mordgrim. Reynard had spilt Caelnoth's blood over the jewel, and for a while it seemed to grow in power, but it had not lasted. Placing the jewel back in the chest, he reached for his bag, and pulled from it a scroll, given to him by Wiglaf. The abbot had told him that he had copied a prophecy by the mystic Benesek of Carstock that he had found whilst reading documents on the Hellstones. Reynard unfurled the parchment and read, "When eye sees no more, and darkness doth fade, a father's betrayal, and power unmade, the blackness diminished is never undone, unless given freely the blood of the sun." He sat back in the chair, pondering its words. He read it again, trying to fathom its meaning. A thought flowered in his mind and grew. He sat up in his chair with sudden comprehension.
The apprentice.
Before we go any further, this is a level up episode for Jenna. Rolling a d6 for new hit points. A 2. Okay, well that will min out at 3, taking Jenna's hit point total to 15. Let us see if she'll do any better with ability score increases. Strength 2. Intelligence 3. Wisdom. A 6! Jenna's wisdom increases to 16, which not only gives her an additional bonus to some saves, but is hugely important to her ability to pray for miracles. Dexterity. Another 6! Jenna's dexterity increases to 10. Constitution. Oh my goodness, it's another 6! What on earth is going on? Jenna's constitution increases to 12. And finally, charisma. A 5. Well, after a disappointing start, that was an amazing level up for the cleric. And it doesn't stop there, because in addition, Jenna can now pray for 2 first level miracles. Okay, so back to the matter at hand. Before journeying to Pen Melkeen in search of the Eye of Krevik, the companions must first return to Mullion to rejoin the Uberdracha and its crew. The 20-mile trek will take almost the whole day, so on that basis I need to make a few rolls to see what the day has in store. Weather. A 7. Sunshine and showers. Given the companions are following the coast, I'm not going to roll for losing direction. Stumble upon. A 9. Nothing. And wandering encounter. A 1. An encounter is indicated. I have a custom table for this kind of coastal land journey. Rolling 2d6. An 11. Okay then. Chapter 44, Part 2, Day 45, Late Morning. Party status: Beric, 37 out of 37 hit points. Lena, 26 out of 26 hit points. Valen, 17 out of 17 hit points. Talion, 24 out of 24 hit points. Canute, 31 out of 31 hit points. Jenna, 12 out of 12 hit points. Arn, 18 out of 18 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorised Push, Shield, Soothe, Revive, and Clairvoyance. Talion has memorised Resolve, Poetic Prose, Pitch, and Imbue. Lena can pray for 2 first-level miracles and 2 second-level miracles. Jenna can pray for 1 first-level miracle. By the time the companions were ready to leave Angrak, it was nearly midday, and as the morning progressed, grey clouds moved in from the west, depositing a light rain. Wishing to tarry no longer, the companions pulled up their hoods, and leaving the promontory behind, followed the path back through the birchwood, where the slender, silvery stems swayed gently. The rhythmic patter of raindrops on the canopy soothed them as they walked, the wet leaves appearing fresh and verdant, the fragrant aroma of damp earth filling the air. Valen walked side by side with Talion, the pair speaking softly to each other in their native tongue, but the mage could not stop himself from occasionally looking over his shoulder to where Lena walked with Jenna. She smiled whenever he did so, causing him to feel a knot in his stomach.
Ah, the blossoming of new love. 'Tis an eternal tune, we all know,
Talion remarked, after the 3rd time that Valen had turned his head. The mage's cheeks reddened.
I feel not abashed,
the bard reassured, grinning from ear to ear.
Words of love are the cornerstone of my craft.
Then added,
Though there is an irony in that.
How so? Talion's expression was wistful.
Many of my patrons want songs of little else, yet a spell singer cannot themselves know love. At least, not until they have discovered the Great Khan.
The Great Khan? Valen asked with genuine curiosity.
A song, but one by which a spell singer can truly walk with the ancestors. It is the culmination of everything a bard has learnt, and the pinnacle of our craft.
How learn you it? Talion gave a wry smile.
In truth, I know not. I do know that the song differs for each bard. It cannot be learnt from another. Before I left Clan Rhys, my master, Gwydion, used his Khan to speak with the ancestors. They told him that I would find mine here, in Power Moor.
And here you are, Valen reflected. Talion smiled.
Here I am.
The footpath emerged from the birchwood, just as the rain ceased. The sun appeared from behind the clouds, and shortly steam could be seen rising from the wet grass. The slight chill that had been felt in the rain had also quickly evaporated, and once dry, the companions were relieved to pause and stow their woolen cloaks in their packs. They continued on through open scrubland until the trail once again began to run along the coast. Their boots crunched on loose gravel as they followed the narrow path which clung to the cliff's edge. The terrain was a mosaic of jagged rocks, tufts of coarse grass, and patches of wild flowers, as it twisted and turned through the rugged landscape, all the while the waves crashing below. Ahead, a large rocky outcrop stood proud against the skyline, and Beric, who led the way, was reminded of the tors which littered the Tamor. The path skirted around the massive granite boulders, and as they rounded the bend, a huge form rose up from the cliff's edge. 2 enormous hands gripped the rock as the creature pulled itself up, until its immense body cleared the edge. About its shoulders was slung the limp form of a juvenile hippogriff, its head lolling about with the movement. The thing stood, reaching its full height, at least twice that of Beric, as it loomed over the warrior. It had the appearance of a man, though its features were crude, and it was clad in a patchwork of roughly stitched furs. It had dark, shaggy hair, and its bristly beard was matted. Beric involuntarily gagged at the stench of its unwashed body, as it stooped down to retrieve its makeshift club, a 6-foot length of birch trunk. Beric stepped back, his hand instinctively moving to the hilt of his sword, as the giant spoke.
Humans.
The wandering encounter that I rolled earlier indicated a hill giant. Standing at over 12 feet tall, This is a powerful 8 hit dice monster. It has an ascending armor class of 15, gets a +7 to its attack, and any successful hit with its huge club will deliver 2d8 points of damage. Now, contrary to the basic expert rules, hill giants in Legend of the Bones are not inherently evil or chaotic. Not that I use alignment in my game, but rather they will act in their own best interests, which usually takes the form of satisfying its rather base needs. They are relatively few in number, secretive and often hostile, though this is the result of centuries of human persecution. With that in mind, it's time to make a reaction roll. Several of the party have a +1 charisma bonus, so I will apply this. As a reminder, I am using the reaction table in the 1983 Beckme edition of D&D. Rolling 2d6, higher is better. A modified 5. That indicates a possible attack, but a second roll is required. Having only recently recovered from their battle with the Brethren, I really do not want the companions to get into another fight so soon. But it's in the hands of the dice. Here is the roll. A modified 10. It would seem that the giant is uncertain. A third roll will determine the final outcome. Okay then, let's see what happens. Chapter 44, Part 2, Day 45, Late Morning. Party status. The party status is unchanged. Seeing Beric reaching for his weapon, the giant raised its own massive club. It groaned loudly as it did so, and the warrior could see that it was injured. 3 long, ragged gashes tore across its right side. They were bleeding heavily, and the white bone of the giant's ribs were exposed. Despite its apparent aggression, there was a reluctance in its muddy brown eyes, and beneath the grime, its face was bloodless, beads of sweat breaking out upon its brow. For a moment, both the giant and Beric simply stood in a state of frozen alert. Behind him, Beric could hear the others equally readying their weapons. The giant's brow knotted at this, and he raised his club higher. Beric hesitated no longer, drawing Callous Cledder from its sheath. "Wait!" Lena called suddenly. She came forward, palms outstretched, her warhammer still hanging in its belt ring. As she passed Beric, she placed a hand upon the big man's shoulder. "Stand down, Beric," she commanded in a soft yet firm tone. "He does not wish to fight," the cleric recognized, observing the giant's hesitation, and added, "Not if he can avoid it." Beric haltingly slid his blade back, though kept his hand upon Callous Cledder's hilt. The giant likewise lowered its club, yet it remained guarded. It eyed Lena with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. The cleric tapped her chest. "Lena," she introduced herself, then gestured to the giant. "You?" The giant stared intently at her from beneath its thick brow, then replied,
Humble.
Lena smiled at him. She was frightened, terrified in fact, but as chance would have it, she had read about the giants of Power Moor in the great library of Idis Gwyn, and learnt something of their nature. She knew that their best chance of avoiding a fight lay in showing Humber that they were no threat. "Lena, help Humber," she offered, pointing at the giant's wounds.
Help, Humber.
He replied, though Lena was unclear whether Humber did not understand her words and was simply repeating them, or whether he was agreeing to her offer. She decided to risk an approach, stepping forward slowly yet purposefully. Humber watched her. Then, as if understanding that Lena would not be able to reach his wounds, he lowered his massive body until he knelt upon the ground. Lena moved closer, steeling herself as the rank stench of the giant's body and breath caught in her throat. Humber flinched as the cleric put her hand upon his wound, softly intoning a prayer. After a few moments, the wound closed, leaving no evidence other than 3 long streaks of fresh pink skin. Lena stepped back, and Humber regarded her with a childlike sense of wonder.
Gamma.
He exclaimed, though none of the companions understood the word. Humber bowed his head in an unexpected show of reverence. Then, reaching inside his filthy furs, produced something wrapped in a piece of rag. It looked tiny in Humber's huge palm.
For Lena.
He said. Lena reached out and took the object. She opened the rag and gasped, for inside was a delicately wrought gold disc brooch. It was ornate, decorated with jewel-like pieces of red enamel, which formed an 8-pointed star around a central hub. The blessed sun! She held it in both hands and looked up at the giant, her eyes glassy with emotion. Thank you, Humber. It's beautiful. Humber grinned, clearly pleased. Then drawing himself up, looked down at the cleric.
Humber, friend.
With that, he slung the juvenile hippogriff's body over his shoulder and lumbered off towards the birchwood.
The world is full of wonder,
Valen observed.
Just when you think you know it, it shows you something new.
The companions continued on, and as the day progressed, the occasional cloud would deposit a heavy shower, but it would soon pass and be replaced by spells of warm summer sun. They followed the path as it undulated along the rugged coastline, sometimes dipping into secluded coves of golden sand, before rising up once more onto sheer cliffs. And all the while, the salty tang of the sea breeze invigorated their senses, as the rhythmic symphony of waves gave a beat to their march. With every twist and turn, the companions were rewarded with breathtaking views of raw, natural beauty. Cliffs adorned with wild flowers, standing ever watchful over the restless sea, their ancient faces etched with the tale of countless tides, and always the vastness of the ocean, a constant reminder of the world's savage beauty. Ascending a steep incline, the companions could see the town of Mullion in the valley below, smoke gently rising from dozens of cooking fires. Scores of gulls circled above the settlement, searching for an opportunity to steal a fish from the day's catch. The sun had already begun its westerly descent, casting hues of orange and pink across the sky. And there, nestled in the harbour, was the Uberdrache. They did not know what the journey to Penmelkine would hold. That was for the coming days. But the prospect of a hot meal and a comfortable bed beckoned, and for now, that was all that mattered. "Come on," Beric called back to the others as he quickened his pace. "There's an ale with my name on it." Thank you for listening to Legend of the Bones. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, then please consider rating and reviewing the show in your podcatcher of choice. Not only do I love seeing the feedback, but it really does help the show reach new listeners. Just one voice talent to thank on this episode. Returning to the show, this time in the role of High Seer Waormund, is J. Brandon Paine. Brandon is a professional voice actor and musician who graciously agreed to appear once again. Thanks, Brandon. Your contribution really elevated this episode. You can find Brandon on SoundCloud by searching for J. Brandon Paine. Paine is spelt Paine. And you can also contact him via email at jbpaine@gmail.com. You can also help by liking or reposting new episode announcements, or by recommending the show online or to a friend. You really can't beat the power of word of mouth. Alternatively, if you'd like to show your appreciation by buying me a metaphorical cup of tea, then I have a Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/Legend of the Bones. Any donations will go towards the show's running costs. Also, if you're interested, I have launched a range of merchandise, which can be found at www.redbubble.com/people/legendbones/shop. To keep the cost down to you, all items are presented at zero markup. I make no money from them. It's purely to give something back to fans of the show. I'd also love to know what you think of the show, and I do respond to every message I receive. So with that in mind, you can contact me on X at LegendBones, Blue Sky at LegendBones, Mastodon at LegendBones at ttrpg-hangout.social, Instagram at LegendOfTheBones, email at legendofthebones@gmail.com, or go to legendofthebones.blogspot.com for show notes, house rules, character profiles, art, maps and more. Join me next time to find out what awaits our adventurers as the Bones decide their fate. None shall escape the destiny of Bone.
There's a special night in the lives of all of us. A night to be daring. A night to be desirable. A night when we can break all the rules and make our own. It's coming to Octoberpod. Everyone is getting ready for Halloween night. It's a time for assembling costumes, putting on makeup, and making last-minute phone calls to your date for the costume party.
Hello? Is there somebody there?
Do you like classic horror stories?
Who's scaring me?
Spirits from an age gone by. Speak again. The immortal tale of Frankenstein.
Even if you're too old for trick-or-treat, Edward October still has a terrifying treat for you this Halloween. The Satanic Rites of Frankenstein. This Halloween season, Octoberpod presents 4 terrifying new visions of Mary Shelley's immortal classic, Listen to the Satanic Rites of Frankenstein, a special Halloween event presented by Octoberpod AM. Your very soul may depend upon it.
Starts playing Tuesday, October 15th. Listen to Octoberpod AM on Spreaker, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. Check local listings.